Inniu táid ag leabhart le ana Geary atá cáiliúil as a bheith mar imar commógaíocht le haid Corcaigh agus inis atá mar páirtnta telefíse. Béis ag leabhart linn faoin na dúchláin a bhíonn a gceist le Folláine. Right, so Anna, what does well-being mean to you?
How are you doing, girls? Thank you so much. It's great to be here. What does well-being mean to me? I think that's an excellent question. I think well-being is something that's probably changed. Like the definition of well-being has probably changed as I've got older. And I think well-being wasn't something really that was really on my radar when I was your age. I just kind of, you just got along with stuff. Like I knew about fitness and I understood about health, but I wasn't really tuned into the idea of self-care or, maybe taking time out for yourself. It wasn't really something that I ever thought that we could do, because I suppose we grew up in such a busy world and there's always so many things that we should be doing, and there's always 100 million places that we should be, or, there's, TikTok videos that should be made nowadays, or there's like text messages, all the WhatsApp groups. Now, I didn't have those when I was a teenager, but still there was plenty of other things that were there to kind of keep us distracted and constantly keep us in the back foot. And I suppose it was easier for me then to feel there was never enough time. And even at that right now, I feel there is never enough time. Whereas as I've got a little bit older, I've started to realize that sometimes just taking a break and pressing pause and, slowing down the gears is actually a really good thing. And like, I'm the type of person, my personality, I'm 100 miles a minute. I love doing loads of different things. I love being busy all the time. But that's not necessarily good for me all the time. And like sometimes it's good to say no to stuff. Sometimes it's good to just not get involved in that group chat and WhatsApp. Sometimes it's good just to say, I'm putting down my phone and I'm watching a movie, or you know what, I'm not really up for going for the run tonight. Instead, I'm just going to leave it off and maybe go for a walk. So that for me is well-being now. It's like well-being now is being well, and it's doing the things that I need to do in order to feel well and to feel better about myself. And if that is sometimes having some ice cream and watching my favorite movie, well then that's well-being, and it's different for everybody. So what it is for me isn't well-being isn't going to be the same for you. Like maybe you like feel in your best place when you're on a Zoom chat with your friends, or when you're gone for a run, or whatever it is. I think it's important that we all know that well-being is different for different people. Hope that answers your question.
It did. And who would you say was your biggest inspiration growing up?
Oh, these are great questions. My biggest inspiration. I think from a sporting context, because obviously I played sport from a really young age, Sonia Sullivan was always somebody that I really looked up to. And I really looked up to her because she wasn't successful all the time. She had a lot of failures and setbacks and amazing successes as well. But I kind of loved how she dealt with them. I loved how, she kind of acknowledged that they were just part and parcel of her career as an athlete, and she kept on going. And like when everything happened and all, anytime the papers would be talking about, she had to drop out of a race, or she was the favorite and it didn't happen. I loved how she just dealt with it and she just moved on, and she was always so humble. And I think that for me made me realize that like it's completely okay to fail. It's completely okay to make mistakes. It's completely okay to start again. And that like sport kind of taught me that failure isn't a weakness, that you have to fail in life. You have to fail anything, especially if you're starting out doing something new. There's no way you're not going to make mistakes. But someone like her in sport, I was like, yeah, she shows it's completely okay to make mistakes. And it was almost like they made the victories then all the sweeter, because she knew all the setbacks that she'd had to get to that point. But what I would have loved to have had when I was growing up was, I suppose, role models in the wider sphere of sport that kind of looked a bit like me. Like, I'm quite small and I'm athletic and I'm muscular, and like Sonia's tall and lean and she's legs up to here. And I would, I would have loved to have had more role models that look like me. And I suppose nowadays you see so much more female athletes in all different sports, and they're all different shapes and sizes. And I think that's really good, because it shows when it comes to sport, or when it comes to being fit or body image, that there's no one size fits all, and that you don't have to be thin to be fit and healthy. You don't have to look any sort of way. Like it's all about it's individual. But I think in life, I think I loved people that just were kind of brave and that tried new things. And I love watching movies, and I love films. And I loved people that just were unapologetically themselves. And they'd come out and say something, they'd take a stand, and they didn't care what anybody else thought, because I wasn't like that. Like when I was younger, I really cared about what other people thought of me. And I really worried about it. And I worried about the judgment, and I worried about, people would be saying, "What's your one there? Who does she think she is?" And I had that fear, and I still have it a little bit even as an adult, but I've grown out of it a small bit now, because I've just come to realize that, like, if somebody doesn't know me and they want to make a judgment about me, well, that's kind of their problem, not mine. But it still doesn't mean it doesn't affect me sometimes. Like, even on social media, you can get 100 lovely comments and people saying really nice things, and then you'll get one really nasty one. And that's sometimes the one that sits with you. It's the one that you're thinking about. And we all do that. Somebody could say really nice things about us, and they might say, "What did you mean by that now? Why did they say that?" And we focus on the negative a bit too much. So I loved, and even now, like, my inspirations are people that I think are brave, that they're true to themselves. Like, I loved Meryl Streep as an actress growing up, because she said whatever she thought, and she did her own thing, and she forged her own path. And I loved that about her. I was like, oh my God. And even now, she's still my favorite actress, because I was like, she just is herself, and she's not afraid to be herself. And sometimes she gets it wrong, but she's still like, this is me, and I have a voice, and I'm going to use it. And I love that about her.
And have you ever struggled to balance school along with sport, like doing homework and having training on in evenings?
Yes, and yes. And I still have it. I still find that balance is hard sometimes as well, because, like I said, geez, there's so many things that we could be doing. And I think sometimes we give ourselves such a hard time, because we're looking at everyone else and we're thinking, how can they get it right? Like, how come they have all this time to bake banana bread and learn the guitar and have the house clean and study and be fit and, look like that? And we look at everyone else all the time. And I think for me, the most important thing with balance is bringing it back to yourself. And it's about getting balance in your life. It's not about your friend's life or your sister's life, because what works for them isn't necessarily going to work for you. So with me, when I try and get a balance, there's a few things that I do. When I'm studying, or when I'm working, or when I need to concentrate on something, I put my phone on airplane mode, right? It is a lifesaver, because no one can text you. You can't get the ping of the notification that somebody's left your comment on Instagram. You can't see all the WhatsApp notifications coming in. If I want to concentrate, I'll put my phone in airplane mode. And then what I actually do as well is I give myself breaks. I think sometimes we're all like, oh, I need to study for 6 hours straight, or I need to homeschool, or I need to do this or that. Breaks are really important for us. They're really good for our balance, for our concentration, for our mood. So is exercise. Like, for me, the best way that I achieve balance is sometimes just by switching off and going for a run. Or if I've got a lot on my plate, 10 minutes of exercise is better than no minutes of exercise. And I think with balance too, how you talk to yourself is really important. If you're really negative with yourself and you're giving yourself a hard time, that has a massive impact on your motivation. So you're actually going to get less done even again, because you're telling yourself, how come you can't get it done? And I think comparing myself to people is the thing that I really work on trying not to do. And realizing that what we see on social media isn't real life, and that other people are struggling too. And I think we all need to remind ourselves of that sometimes, to tell ourselves, it's okay to have a bit of a down day. It's okay to have a bit of a crap day. Tomorrow's another day. So what can I do today to make myself feel a little bit more productive and make myself feel a little bit better? And then I'll sit, like, even if I can accomplish really small tasks, like the really simple ones, and even this, like, that sense of achievement of ticking off something on the list or drawing a line through it on the list, that can give you a little bit of a lift, and it can actually motivate you then to do other things as well.
And what advice would you give to young people?
Oh, what advice? That's an excellent question. These are great questions. Go ye. What advice would I give to people? You know what? There's a quote. There's two quotes, right? And one of them is, do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path, and leave a trail, right? And what that means is forge your own path. Do what's right for you. It doesn't matter if none of your friends are doing it, or it doesn't matter if no one else is doing it. You do it. You be the person that changes how something is currently done. Why not? Like, why are you waiting for someone else to tell you it's okay? And I would have loved to have known that when I was a little bit younger, because when I was in school, I studied and I got my leaving cert, and I went on and I did a degree in college, and I went and I worked in a corporate environment for a few years, and it was a great job. Just wasn't a great job for me. I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel like I was doing what I was meant to be doing. I didn't feel that the job that I was in kind of like was my around my strengths. I didn't think that anything like that. I just think, this can't be it. Like, there has to be more to life than this. There has to be more than just doing this. So I made a big decision back in 2015. I left my job, and I had no plan B, but I knew that from sport and from when I was younger, I developed a really good work ethic, and I knew that if I worked hard, no matter what I wanted to do, at least I'd be in a position just to try something different. And again, sure, if I failed at it, what harm? At least I had I could always go back and get a pensionable job, as my dad would call it. So I left my job, started out, went back to study, qualified as a performance coach, and then was starting to work in media and in radio and broadcasting, got a chance to work in Ireland's Fittest Family as a coach, and all these opportunities just started opening up. And I started telling myself, God, there is no right or wrong way to live your life. There is no right or wrong career. It's about what suits you. So going where the path doesn't lead and leaving your own mark, to me, is really important, because we all only get to do this once. And you can start again if you want to, but it's your life. And I think living it in your own way is really important, and doing things that you want to do is really important. And the second thing, I think, is, it's another quote, and it's, people will forget what you said and they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And we all know those people in our lives that make us feel really good, and we like being around them. But we also know the people in our lives that make us feel a bit crap. And sometimes we can't get away from those people. They could be family members. They could be that friend in the group that's always giving the dig or the jibe. Could be a teacher. It could be like a next door neighbor. Whoever it is, everybody in life has those people. What I call them is, there's energy trains and there's energy drains. And the trains, the people that push you along and you want to get on board with them because they just make you feel good about yourself. And then the drains, the people that suck the life right out of you. In the WhatsApp group, they've always got the negative message. If it's a teacher always telling you you're not doing things right, whatever it is. And they're in our lives, right? And you can't cut them out, but you can limit the amount of impact that they have in your life and focus your attention on the trains, the people that make you feel good. And the reason why I left my job and started qualifying as a performance coach and even working in radio, TV, is I wanted people to feel good about themselves, because life can be bloody hard. So I wanted to help people feel that bit better. And that quote for me is so important, that, it's like that sticks and stones will break my bones, like my name's deliver. It's just, I want to help people to feel good, and knowing that what you do every day can impact people in a positive way or in a negative way. To me, just my job gives me the chance just to help people feel that little bit better, to help them create good habits, to help them to improve themselves. And I think we all need that helping hand sometimes. So, I'm really lucky now that I get to do that in my job. And there's days where helping other people actually helps me feel good about myself too. There you go.
I have a few questions related to sport. With physical sport being such a big aspect within your life, did you ever feel like giving up and thinking, this is just too much for me?
I didn't really, if I'm honest, because I got into sport initially way back when I was younger from a social point of view. It was just to make friends and to hang around with people in the evenings. I came from a really small rural village where there wasn't really much else happening. Like if you didn't play sport, you just kind of really didn't do much else. So I wasn't good at sport when I was younger either. Like where I am now and where I started out are two very different places. Like when I went into school, when I went into secondary school in first year, all of my friends made the A panel and I didn't. I made the B panel. Like that didn't sit very well with me at all. I was very upset about it. So probably then I'd say I probably wanted to pack it in because, I felt a little bit crap that they were kind of ahead. But then I started again focusing on myself, and I had a really good coach, and he was like, just work hard. That's all you can do. You can only deal with the situation that you're in right now and make the best of it. And he said to me that hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard. So I was like, okay. So I worked hard and I did. I practiced all the time and I tried to improve. And I remember the feeling of making that A panel in first year a few months later. It was just one of the greatest feelings, knowing that the work that I put in had paid off. So like that was probably one of the few times in my life. And look, I've lost All Irelands down to the years. I can still remember bawling my eyes out in Croke Park in 2007 when I lost an All Ireland final to Wexford, and literally feeling that's it, I'm done, just don't want to do it anymore. Like all the work we put in, all the hardship now that we feel, it's just not worth it. But you know what it was, because when I look back on all the losses that I've had and all the hard points or the setbacks in sport, they've kind of helped make me the player that I was and that I am now. The failures that I had and the setbacks fueled me like to drive on, and they gave me a little bit of a motivation to try again, going, you know what, next time I'm going to be better. So that's what I'm saying about failures. They're not a weakness if you use them in the right way. And I think sport is so important. Like never is it more important than a time like this, whether it's you guys and you're studying and that you're in school and that you have a lot going on, whether it's, you know, a parent or maybe your own parents or guardians that might have homeschooling duties and balancing work and all these different things. We need like sport and movement and activity. We need it for our bodies. We need it for our minds. Just like it has such an impact on things like your mood. If you go for a 10-minute run, you are going to feel better. Like 100%, you are going to feel better. If it's only 1%, you're still going to feel better by 1%. It's great for our energy levels. A lot of people say, oh, I don't want to exercise because I'm tired. What they don't realize is if they exercise, you'd actually feel that you had more energy rather than less energy, because it does boost your energy levels. Helps you sleep better. It helps you make better decisions even when it comes to food. There's so many positive effects, but also as well, it makes you feel good about yourself. You know, because there's this thing called an endorphin buzz where it releases endorphins and dopamine, which is like your happiness hormone. So when you exercise, it actually makes you feel better. And I think that's what I realized from sport, that it does make me feel better about myself. And then the friendships that I got to make from sport kind of kept me going on the days where I was a bit allergic to going out training. But I knew I was going down to meet my pals and that we'd have a laugh and we'd have a bit of crack at it. So that's kind of, having those friendships there was really important, and has been the reason why I've stayed playing sport for so long, because some of my best friends have come from playing sport. And even as well with my own body image, you know, when I was growing up, that like, you know, times are hard, like when it comes to body image, and you're seeing all these images of the perfect body and on social media and online, and how to get abs in 2 weeks. Like the pressure is everywhere now. And I think the one good thing about sport was that it kind of taught me that like your body is an instrument. It's not an ornament. It's not just there to be looked at. It does so much more. If you think about what your body has done for you today, it's got you out of bed, it's got you to move around the place, get in and out of your chair, you know, like, you know, it's lifted the spoon into your mouth to have your breakfast. Like our bodies do brilliant things for us every day, but we only ever look at them as sometimes as this ornament that's just on show, and how it looks in a pair of skinny jeans, or what size waist you have. Like that's not what it's meant to be. So sport kind of taught me as well that your body is like, it's to help you, you know, it's help you to perform, and it's to see how you can challenge yourself. And I suppose it's given me a much better and more positive body image, because again, like I'm 5'5", I'm quite short and I'm quite muscular, and I used to run when I was younger as well. So I would have a lot of muscle on my body. So I don't necessarily look like a lot of other, like even in my friendship group, I don't look a lot like the rest of my friends. And when I was younger, growing up, I didn't look like a lot of my friends. And I think that's okay, because my body allowed me to perform at a really high level, to win All Irelands and to test myself and to be able to run faster and to be strong. I think now we're starting to see the importance of that, that like there's no one size fits all. And wouldn't life be very boring if we all looked the same?
All Ireland medals. Is there still pressure to keep yourself motivated with the commitment that comes with playing at the highest level of the sport?
Can you ask that question again if you don't mind? I just missed the start of it.
Yeah, coming from a great career with Cork Camogie, like you said, the success that includes your 6 All-Stars and your 4 All-Ireland medals. Was there, or is there still the pressure to keep yourself motivated with the commitment that comes with playing at the highest level of the sport?
That's a great question. Yeah, like I think one of the things that I kind of learned was that, like, don't get me wrong, the medals and the awards were great, you know, and they're great for the ego. They're great to give you an all ego boost when you win at the end of the day. But like, you can't really rely on them either, because there's only one winner of the award. There's only one winner of an All-Ireland final. And if that became my focus, well, then a lot of the time I'd be leaving disappointed every year. So what I used to do is I used to set myself little goals as well. So I used to focus on things that I could do during the year. So obviously we had a team goal, and the team goal would often be win the league, win the Munster final. The big one was win the All-Ireland. Whereas I used to set myself little personal goals, because then that kind of kept me on track. Because I mean, when you're training in the wind and the rain in the middle of January and the All-Ireland final isn't until September, well, Jesus, like, it's a long time off, and it's very hard to stay motivated then if you know it's so far away. So I would set myself little goals saying, you know, maybe something like, you know, I'm going to try and knock a second or two off my 100-meter sprint, or I'm going to try and get a little bit stronger this year, or maybe I'm going to lift, you know, the next size up in weights, or I'm going to see if I can mark the best player in the team and beat her to the next ball, or win the next sprint, and all these little goals, because we all need those little bit of things to focus on, you know, just to keep us motivated. And even now, I suppose, I retired from Cork Camogie in 2015, and I was really lucky that my club was still playing at a really high level, and it gave me a huge focus and a way to kind of switch off from retiring from Cork, because I got to pump all my energy then in to playing with my club. And you need something. We all need something to keep us focused and motivated. It doesn't matter what it is, but we all need it. It's just something to keep our brains and our bodies and our minds just kind of ticking over. And you know what? There are some days and some weeks, even before the pandemic, that I just didn't feel like training, or I didn't feel like eating as best as I could. And I wanted to eat pizza, and I wanted to eat ice cream. And you know, there's a time for that as well. But it's about getting the balance right and understanding that, like, even if you break down your food in a week, say if you have 3 meals every day and 2 kind of snacks, like that's 5 meals, and you've 7 days, that's 35 meals a week. So if I want to eat pizza from one of those meals, or I want to have ice cream, or I want to have, you know, once that is like the 80-20 rule, once say like that 28 of my meals are healthy and they're balanced and they're nutritious, well, then if 6 or 7 of them are my favorite things that mightn't be seen as the healthiest foods, well, who cares? You know, you have to live your life as well. I think sometimes if you're, you know, after having a fight with a friend, or, you know, you're after having a crap day at work, or maybe school isn't going well, sometimes it's nice to be a bit kinder to yourself and say, yeah, I'm not motivated right now, but I will be again next week, or I will be again tomorrow. You know, I think we all need sometimes to give ourselves a little bit of a break, because we're very hard on ourselves. And now, like, when I was your age, I didn't have social media. So, like, you know, Bebo only actually came in when I was in college, believe it or not. Apparently it's coming back. It was very cool. And that was what I had. And up until then, we never had like the constant pressure and the constant access to everybody else's lives. So we didn't know what anyone else was doing. Once we all went home, that was it. Whereas now we get to look in at everyone else and see what they're doing. And we think it's motivating us, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's actually stifling us, because you're looking what everyone else is doing so much that you actually forget to focus on what you should be doing.
My last question then would be, that's what I thought. With the times that we're in now, when everyone pretty much isolated from everything, do you think it's more important than ever to speak up about how you're feeling, and to just try and get out there for the sake of a walk, for the sake of your mental health?
It's a brilliant question, Saoirse. I think now more than ever, if we have learned anything from this pandemic, it's that you never know what anyone else is going through. And just because you see something on social media, or you look at someone else's life, don't assume that you know how they're feeling, or how they're coping, or maybe they're not coping. And we all experience it, that, like, it's not a weakness to not be feeling good. And like, we hear that line, it's okay not to feel okay, but it is. And the problem is, we're sometimes too stubborn, or sometimes we don't allow ourselves to reach out and ask for help, even though it's the easiest thing in the world. Like, if you put yourself in someone else's position for a second, right? And say I come to you, I come to Caitlin, and I'm like, I'm really struggling, like, I'm not having a good week. Are you going to shut me down and knock me down and say, why you feel like that? Of course you're not. You're going to say, how can I help? You're going to listen to them. So why do we always assume then that if we're coming to someone else with a problem, that they're going to react in a completely different way if we'd react to our friend in a really empathetic way? So we kind of need to realize that everybody needs to talk to somebody. Everybody needs help. It just, that help comes in different shapes and sizes. And I hear sometimes people saying, I can't wait to go back to normal. Like, I hear it all the time, can't wait to go back to normal. I don't want to go back to normal. I want a normal, but I want it to be a new normal. Because I actually think what we've learned from this pandemic is that, you know what, it's really good to talk to people. It's really good to be honest about our feelings. It's really good that when we're having a crap day to say it, because it doesn't make us any less of a person. It doesn't make us weak. It actually makes us strong because we have the courage to say, hang on a second, I'm not feeling good and I need to tell somebody about it so that I can feel good. And I want that to continue into the future. I think we were all disconnected from each other before this pandemic hit. I think we weren't really paying attention to people. You know, you were dropping your friend the odd message going, how's everything going? But like, did you actually, number one, care about the reply? And number two, did you actually pay attention to it? Did you listen to it? Did you take it on board? Whereas now we're all a lot more tuned in into how everybody's feeling because we know it's a tough time for everybody. This is something that's affecting every single person on the planet. Whereas before, often hardships or setbacks or challenges were kind of only, you know, they were only affecting a small few. So sometimes we could just kind of ignore it because it wasn't affecting us. Therefore, it just was kind of off our radar. Whereas now, one day or another, or 1 week or another, we're all experiencing just feeling a little bit crap or feeling a little bit down or missing our friends or missing going, you know, hanging out and going shopping in the morning and going for lunch in the afternoon and going to the cinema in the evening. The simple things is what I miss the most. But I also know that the pandemic has kind of made me reevaluate everything, like what's important. And having the big job and loads of money and the fancy lifestyle isn't what's important to me at all. Because what's important is the people that are in my life, the friends that I have, you know, the real friends. I'm not talking about having, you know, 200 friends on Facebook or whatever it is, like the real friends. You only need one or two, but the real friends, and valuing those and kind of reminding myself that I have a responsibility to work on those friendships and to check in with them, and equally allow them to see that sometimes I'm not doing so well either. Because if you show other people that you're willing to acknowledge you're not in a good place all the time, you're almost giving them permission then to do the same back. That they'll go, well, she told me that she's not feeling good, so no, I can tell her I'm feeling good. Nobody wants to talk to somebody that's fucking, oh, I'm great and everything's fabulous. And that's exhausting. I don't want to be around that person all the time. I want somebody to be able to tell me that they've had a crap day. And I think we've kind of disconnected, but reconnected during this pandemic. We've disconnected from some of the stuff that, you know, wasn't really kind of serving us or wasn't making us feel good. And we've reconnected with people, we've reconnected with our friends and family, and we've reconnected with what's important. And that's kind of like even hugging. Jesus, I'm a big hugger, right? And I miss hugging so much. I really do, because I totally like underestimated what a hug can do. Hug can fix a lot of things. Hug can fix a lot of things. And that's one of the things that I'm really looking forward to, is that when things do go back to a normal, that I'm looking forward to be able to hug my friends and family. But I hope that some of the things that I've learned in this pandemic I can take them forward. I don't want to go backwards. I don't want to go back to the old ways, because to be honest, I think a lot of things that we were doing pre-pandemic weren't the best for us anyway. You know?
I have questions and then you'll be free to go. How did you feel transitioning from a camogie player to becoming an Irish television personality?
These are great questions. You are hitting me with big questions today. That's a really good question. It was, I suppose, just to go back to the start of it when I was smaller. So I always wanted to present the Late Late Show when I was younger, right? I always just thought it was such a cool job that, like, you're getting paid to talk to people about the really cool things that they're doing in their life. You're getting paid to talk to people about, you know, struggles that they overcame. And I just thought it was just a really cool job. But I was like, look, you know, I'm only from a small rural village in Cork. I'll never get to do that. So I kind of put it to the back of my mind and then think about it. But as I was growing up, and as, you know, as I started out working and stuff, and I had this kind of, I was the camogie player, you know, that's what I was in. This is Anna Geary, the camogie player. So that was my identity. You know, if you know of other people, oh, you know, that's such and such the musician, that's such and such the milkman, that's such and such, he's such and such a sister from down the road. You know, we all have these identities that we become known as. And I was kind of the camogie player. And that was fine. And I was delighted to be the camogie player. And when I got to be a Cork camogie player, it was better again. But I suppose when I retired then, back in 2015, I no longer had that identity. I was like, then I was just Anna Geary. And I was like, oh crap, who am I now? Because for the last 12 years, I've been the Cork camogie player, and now I'm not being introduced as that anymore. And I don't even think people really knew what to introduce me as. So I was like, okay, I need to find something else now that I can invest myself in. So when I left my job and started out in a new career path, everything was so new to me, right? And I was nervous. Like, I was breaking it sometimes, I'm not going to lie. There was certain times that I was just pretending that I knew what I was doing, even when I didn't. I remember the very first time I stood there with a microphone and I was live, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to say. Even though for someone that loved to talk so much, I didn't know what I was going to say, because I was so nervous about trying something new, and I was afraid of what people would say about me and what people would think. But in a really weird way, when I retired from Cork and kind of transitioned into the world of media and broadcasting, it was a really good distraction, because it was something new. And you know, when you're doing anything new, you have to focus solely on that, because if you don't, you know, it's not going to work out. So because I was focusing so much on the new career and trying to work as hard as I could to make it in broadcasting and just be able to get a job, I wasn't really focusing on the fact that I had left being a Cork camogie player behind. And I think sometimes with sports people, or with somebody, even musicians, or if you're doing something in your life and suddenly it stops, it can be really hard on somebody, because you want to fill that gap with something. And that's why people sometimes fill the gap with things they shouldn't. They fill it with drink and with drugs and with things that, you know, that are bad for us, but they're missing something. So they're searching to fill it with something else. So for me, because I was starting out in something new, I kind of had that distraction. And I would say that to anyone, if you were like, even being a leaving cert, sometimes when you finish school, you can actually have a big dip, because suddenly you're a big fish in a small pond. Everyone knew you in school. You were walking down the corridors and you were the sixth year, so everyone stepped out of your way, and you had the pals, and that part of your life is over. And it can be really daunting sometimes moving on to the next step. Some go to college, some do different things. So I would always say, when you're transitioning into something new, find something to focus your attention on. You know, find, whether it's a new fitness regime or learning, whatever it is that floats your boat, find something to focus your attention on. That will keep you distracted, and it'll allow you then to kind of adjust and allow your emotions to adjust, because that was really important for me. And then I realized that when I was qualified as a performance coach, and I started kind of analyzing what was happening to me, I was like self-coaching myself, and I realized, but this isn't something that you just jumped into overnight. Like, this was something that I've always had an interest in. I just never really allowed myself to look at it that way. I always thought being a presenter on TV was just something for someone else. I'll never get that lucky to have that job. So then when I found myself having these tiny chances, like, you know, it could be 30 seconds standing in front of a camera, or, you know, using the chance. I remember working with the Camogie Association, and I was an ambassador for them of a charity, and I got to do like I'd say it was like a 10-second interview that like was like a quick clip on the screen that was gone. And I was like, oh my God, that was so much fun, and I loved the energy from it. And working really hard at it, then saying, well, you know what, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but why not give it a chance? Like, and I almost didn't, because I was afraid of what people would think. But this is going back to following your own path. And I was like, but I've always had an interest in media, so try it and see what happens. And now it's hard. Like, it is hard. I think with media, I've been working in it like maybe 7 or 8 years, and it's still new, and I'm still learning all the time, and I'm still, you know, nervous, and I still do things sometimes where I'm like, oh, I'm going live. I remember the very first time I was live on radio, my own show. And oh my God, like I nearly passed out. Even though like it was on radio, no one could see me. I was thinking, oh my God, what if people don't like me? And all these what if. And I just stop, just fucking enjoy it, you know. And when you take away all the what ifs and you just focus on the enjoyment of it, it actually was much better fun. And thankfully I'm still doing it. But like, it was still, I was really lucky from sport, I suppose, because, you know, the media would often be writing about you, and they'd be writing about your performance in a game, or, you know, you'd often see your name in the paper, and sometimes they'd say you had a good game, and other times they'd say you didn't have a good game. And I suppose in the media, sometimes with social media, sometimes people can make comments about you. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't take some of them to heart, especially in the earlier days. Like, oh, I can't believe you said that about me. Or like when I was on Dancing with the Stars, like one of the rules I had was I never looked at Twitter. I just did not allow myself to look at Twitter. I was like, there is some nasty, toxic people out there that are not in a good place in their lives, so they're going to make a comment. And it was the best thing I ever did, because it didn't allow any negativity into my life. And I think with your job, whatever you're doing, you just have to give everything of yourself. Like, just like with Camogie on the pitch, I gave everything of myself. And now with this, I give everything of myself. And it doesn't always work out. And sometimes I come up short and I make loads of mistakes. But I kind of know that once I'm giving everything of myself and that I can't do any more, well, then I have to kind of be content that that's my best. But I think the worst thing you can do in life is hold back, because you'll always be wondering then, well, maybe if I gave it everything, could I have actually been more successful? And it's been brilliant. I love the energy that comes from working with people. I love doing live radio and I love live TV. You know, I love kind of, I suppose, anything that I've done so far. It's been a way to connect with people. And I've always loved connecting with people. I love talking. So, you know, media is definitely well suited to me, because I would talk for Ireland. And I think it's just being able to come back to what I said about making a difference for people and making them feel better. Like, media allows me a platform and gives me a voice to talk about things that maybe sometimes people are afraid to talk about. And even my own social media, everyone has a platform nowadays. Like, everyone's social media can be their platform. And you decide if it's going to be a place where people leave feeling better or feeling worse. And I think that's one of the things that I'm grateful for, is that I have that avenue now to help people and to make them feel a bit better, to have a bit of crack with them, you know, to bring a bit of laughter, to bring a bit of knowledge. And then, you know, like that, with me to do this and to continue doing it is definitely a dream. But like, yeah, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't sometimes that I was like, oh God, I have imposter syndrome, can I do this? But like, yeah, that's why it's important to have those one or two friends that you can ring that'll give you a kick up the ass and be like, well, you're grand, you're fine. But equally, those friends, I need them too sometimes to say, hang on there now a second, you know, pull back a small bit now, you're after getting too carried away with yourself. So we need our friends, we need that small little circle of people to be there for us, to advise us, to encourage us, but also as well to give us a bit of perspective sometimes. So I'm lucky to have them. And yeah, hopefully I'll continue to have them when hopefully I keep the job. You know, it pays my mortgage, so it's good, and I love it. So anybody listening, I would say that, Jim, just find something that you love doing, and if you love it, you'll have no problem working hard at it.
Thank you. And in the previous question, you kind of touched on it. But do you believe that being in the media can take a toll on your mental health?
Yeah, I suppose it can if you let it. You know, I suppose for me, I love my job and I love working in the media and I love working on air. And I suppose with that comes being in the public eye. And sometimes, you know, you might be feeling less than your best, and the hair could be stuck to the top of your head and you haven't washed it in about 5 days, and you're wearing something that you'd only ever wear in the house, and you've nipped out to the shop, and then suddenly somebody asks you for a picture and you're like, oh God, because you don't know where that picture will end up. And then, oh, what if it goes on social media and someone's commenting about me? And I suppose I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a part of me that was sometimes worried about what other people thought. But then there's another part of me going, why should we care about other people's negative thoughts if you don't know them? And if they don't know me, well then, number one, they don't know me. So what they say should have no relevance on me. And I'm working really hard now to kind of not focus on the negative. So if somebody says something negative about me on Twitter, number one, I'll try not to see it. But if I do see it, I'm like, well, do they know me? No. Are they judging me unfairly? And if I know they are and I haven't done anything to that person, well then, you know what, that's more their problem than mine. And there are some days, I think, with media, the nature of media, that, you know, you might be going for a job and you didn't get it and you're disappointed, but that's the same as every career, you know, that is completely the same as every career. And I love what I do. I choose to be in this career. So I think that's the most important thing as well, is this is my choice. Nobody's telling me I have to be in it. I want to be in it. And I think if it ever came to a stage where I didn't enjoy it, well, then I probably wouldn't do it anymore.
Thank you. And I only have one more question left for you, and then you're free to go.
Great, no bother. Loving the chat.
If you could go back in time to talk to your younger self who's unaware of what lies ahead in the future, what would you say to them?
Oh, what a question to leave it on. Okay, I would say be prepared to make plenty of mistakes. Be prepared to try new things and not succeed at them. But don't be anybody but yourself. Don't try and fit into what anybody else's vision of you is. You know, you don't have to go on, you don't have to be in anyone else's little slot for you. Like if they think you're the camogie player, the media person, whatever it is, you don't need to be that person. You have to be the person that's right for you. And the most important thing of all is back yourself. Because if you don't back yourself in life, how do you expect anyone else to believe in you? And if you believe in yourself and you're working hard, even if you're failing or there's setbacks, it doesn't matter, because you have to have belief in yourself and what you're doing to keep you going. And I wish I said that to myself a little bit more when I was younger, because I always had the drive. I just didn't always have the belief. And even now it's something I have to keep working on. But I try and tell myself every day, you have to back yourself.
Thank you very much. Gurmila, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us about such like an important topic, especially in the days that we're all in now. We really do appreciate it.
You were brilliant. I mean, I'm staring at 3 future presenters. So thank you so much, Mashiv.
Thanks very much.
See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.